The darkness inside the space station felt alive. Hana pressed her back against the cold metal wall, her forearms gripping her weapons with practiced ease. She could hear the mechanical clicking of the Devourers somewhere in the shadows. Her squad was trapped, and she knew it. She had been fighting these machines for 5 years now. 5 years since she completed her training and joined the Valkyrie warrior caste. 5 years of following orders, executing missions, and never questioning the neural implants that kept her emotions locked away. That was how warriors were supposed to be. Cold, efficient, perfect. The mission had seemed simple enough. Board the derelict station, retrieve the Devour technology, and leave before their reinforcements arrived. But nothing ever went as planned when dealing with the machines. They had triggered some kind of ancient security system, and now metal doors had sealed them inside a section of the station. The Devourers were closing in from all sides. Hana's commanding officer, a veteran named Taran, was trying to coordinate their defense. But everyone knew the truth. They were going to die here. The Valkyrie did not fear death. Their implants made sure of that. Hana felt nothing as she checked her ammunition. No fear, no regret. Just the cold calculation of how many enemies she could kill before they overwhelmed her position. Then she heard something strange. Laughter. At first, she thought her audio sensors were malfunctioning. Nobody laughed in combat. It made no tactical sense. But the sound came again, echoing through the station's corridors. Human laughter. The humans had only joined the coalition 5 years ago, right around the time Hana had started her service. She had never worked with them directly. The Valkyrie command considered humans to be useful but unpredictable. They fought without proper discipline. They modified their equipment in ways that violated safety protocols. They formed emotional attachments to their weapons and gave them names. It was all very strange, but now those strange humans were here, and Hana could hear them coming. The first one burst through a side passage that the Devourers had been using. He was small by Valkyrie standards, maybe 6 feet tall with a slim build. He wore human combat armor that looked like it had been repaired a dozen times with whatever materials were available. In his hands, he carried some kind of welding torch and a bag of equipment that rattled as he moved. He saw the Devourers coming down the corridor and smiled. Actually smiled. Then he started running toward them. Hana watched in disbelief as the human charged straight at a group of 5 Devourer units. He was still laughing. As he ran, he pulled something from his bag and started connecting wires to it. The Devourers raised their weapons, but the humans slid under their first shots like he was playing some kind of game. He slapped the device he had made onto the lead Devourer's chest plate and kept running. 3 seconds later, it exploded. The blast took out all 5 machines and blew a hole in the station wall. Emergency force fields snapped into place to keep the atmosphere from venting into space. More humans poured through the passage. They moved like water, flowing around obstacles and supporting each other without seeming to communicate. They made no sense tactically, yet they were devastatingly effective. They shouted encouragement to each other. They called out jokes. One of them was singing. The human with the welding torch doubled back and started working on the door that had sealed Hana's squad inside. She moved closer to watch him work. He glanced up at her, and their eyes met. That was when everything changed. Hana's combat implants suddenly flickered. Warning messages scrolled across her vision. Her heartbeat, which the implants kept steady at exactly 60 beats per minute during combat, spiked to 90. Her thermal vision blurred. Her targeting system lost lock. Every piece of technology woven into her nervous system seemed to stutter at once. This was impossible. Valkyrie implants did not malfunction. They were tested and proven over thousands of years. They had redundant systems and biological backups. There was no reason for them to fail, but they were failing now. The human turned his attention back to the door. He was welding it in a pattern that made no engineering sense. Yet somehow the door's locking mechanism sparked and released. The way out was open. Move. Move. Taran was shouting orders. The squad began falling back through the opening. The humans provided covering fire with the same chaotic enthusiasm they brought to everything else. Hana found herself standing still, watching the human work. He had moved on to another door now, sealing it behind them to slow down the devourer pursuit. His movements were quick and confident. He hummed while he worked. How could someone be so calm while death surrounded them? "Warrior, Hana!" Taran's voice cut through her confusion. "Fall back to the extraction point." She shook her head, trying to clear the strange fog that had settled over her thoughts. Her implants were still sending error messages. She forced herself to move, to follow her squad towards safety. But she kept looking back at the human with the welding torch. The extraction went smoothly. The humans had brought additional ships and firepower. What should have been a massacre turned into a successful retreat. As Hana boarded her squad's transport, she saw the human one last time. He was loading equipment onto a human ship, still singing that same song. He looked up, caught her staring, and waved. Hana did not wave back. She did not understand why he had waved. She did not understand any of this. During the flight back to the Coalition fleet, Taran approached her. "Your performance was adequate, Warrior Hana, but your reaction time was slow during the extraction. Are your implants functioning properly?" "They experienced a temporary malfunction," Hana said. It was not entirely a lie. It has been corrected, but it had not been corrected. Even now, sitting in the transport surrounded by her fellow Valkyrie warriors, her implants continued to send error messages. Her heart rate remained elevated, and when she closed her eyes, she could still see that human smile. The Valkyrie did not experience attraction to other species. Their neural chemistry prevented it. The implants reinforced this, ensuring that warriors remained focused on their duties. Cross-species bonding was biologically impossible for her people. Yet something had happened in that moment when their eyes met. Something her implants could not suppress or control. Over the next 3 days, Hana could not stop thinking about the human. She tried to focus on her duties. She ran diagnostics on her implants. She meditated according to Valkyrie discipline. Nothing helped. The human's face kept appearing in her thoughts. The sound of his laughter echoed in her memory. Finally, she made a decision that surprised even herself. She requested a transfer to study human combat tactics. When Taran asked why, she gave the logical answer. Understanding humanity's success rate could benefit the war effort. But the real reason was simpler and more complicated than that. She needed to understand why this human had broken something inside her. She needed to know why her perfect, infallible implants had failed. She needed to see him again. The transfer was approved within a week. Hana packed her equipment and prepared to leave the Valkyrie section of the fleet. She was going to live among humans now. She was going to learn their ways. And maybe, if she was lucky, she would find answers to questions she did not yet know how to ask. As her transport approached the human carrier Indomitable, Hana felt her implants glitch again. Her hands trembled slightly. According to everything she had been taught, this should not be happening. But it was happening. And deep down, in a place the implants could not quite reach, Hana realized she did not want it to stop. The human carrier Indomitable looked nothing like a Valkyrie warship. Where Valkyrie vessels were clean and organized with everything in its proper place, the human ship felt alive with chaos. Pipes ran along the walls in patterns that seemed random. Someone had painted a giant shark mouth on the side of a fighter craft. A group of human soldiers had gathered in a corridor to watch something on a small screen. and they were all shouting at it. Hannah stood in the docking bay with her single bag of belongings, feeling completely out of place. She towered over most of the humans around her. Her violet skin and forearms drew curious stares. A few humans waved at her. One smiled and said something she did not understand. Her translator implant took a moment to process the casual greeting. "Welcome aboard," a voice said in perfectly clear Valkyrie. Hannah turned to see a human woman with dark hair tied back in a simple tail. She was smaller than most humans Hannah had seen, and she carried a long rifle across her back. "I am Jisoo. I will help you settle in." "You speak Valkyrie," Hannah said, surprised. "I learned it when I was assigned to coalition liaison duty," Jisoo replied, switching to human language. "But you should practice our language while you are here. It will help you understand us better." Hannah nodded. Her translator would help, but Jisoo was right. Language carried culture within it. If she wanted to understand humans, she needed to hear their words as they spoke them. Jisoo led her through the ship. Along the way, she pointed out important locations: the mess hall, the medical bay, the training rooms, the quarters where Hannah would sleep. The ship was much less formal than Valkyrie vessels. Humans had personalized their spaces with pictures and objects that had no tactical purpose. One corridor had paintings on the walls. Another had plants growing in containers. "Why do you keep living things on a warship?" Hannah asked. Jisoo smiled. "They remind us what we are fighting for: life, growth, beauty. The Devourers want to consume everything. We want to protect it." It was a strange answer, but somehow it made sense. Her quarters were small but functional. Humans had modified the bed to accommodate her larger frame. They had even installed equipment bars on the walls for her to practice her combat forms. Someone had left a small potted plant on the desk with a note that said, "Welcome. The crew is excited to have you here," Jisoo explained. "We do not get many Valkyrie volunteers for cross-training. I am here to learn your combat tactics," Hannah said. It was the official reason. The safe reason. "Of course," Jisoo said, but her smile suggested she did not entirely believe it. Training began the next day. Hannah joined a human combat unit for morning exercises and immediately realized that human military doctrine made no logical sense whatsoever. They did not minimize risk. They seemed to actively embrace it. When presented with two options, one safe and one dangerous, they would choose the dangerous one if it had a better chance of mission success. The training instructor, a scarred veteran named Commander Dan, explained it simply: "We fight to win, not to survive. If you are only fighting to survive, you have already lost." Hannah struggled with this concept. Valkyrie doctrine emphasized preservation of forces. A warrior who survived could fight again. But humans seemed to believe that some things were worth dying for, and that belief made them more effective somehow. During a tactical simulation, Hannah watched human squads coordinate in ways that should not work. They split up when doctrine said to stay together. They took risks that statistical analysis marked as foolish. Yet they won more often than they lost. After one particularly chaotic exercise, Hannah approached Commander Dan. "Your tactics violate every principle of military efficiency." Dan laughed. "Yes, that is why they work. The Devourers calculate probability. They predict logical responses. But we are not logical. We are stubborn and creative, and just crazy enough to try things that should not work. But many of you die." "Yes," Dan said, her smile fading. "Many of us die. But we die protecting something we love. The Devourers do not understand love. That gives us an advantage they cannot calculate." Hannah thought about this as she walked back to her quarters. The Valkyrie had removed love from their warriors. The implants suppressed attachment and emotion. It made them better soldiers, or so she had always been taught. But humans became better soldiers because they felt these things. How could both be true? She was still thinking about it when she turned a corner and almost walked into someone. She looked down and saw him. The human with the welding torch. The one who had made her implants malfunction. "Oh, sorry," he said, steadying himself. "I was not watching where I was going. I was reading this report about the power coupling in Section 7 and—" He trailed off, looking up at her. "Wait, you are the Valkyrie warrior from the station. I remember you." Hannah's implants flickered again. Warning messages scrolled across her vision. Her heart rate jumped. "Yes," she managed to say. "I am Hannah." "I am Minho," he said, smiling that same smile she remembered. "Are you settling in okay? I heard we had a Valkyrie joining us for training." "That is pretty amazing." "It is adequate," Hannah said. Her words felt stiff and formal, even to her own ears. "Well, if you need anything, let me know. I am usually in Engineering Bay 3, but I move around a lot." He shifted the datapad he was carrying. "Actually, since you are here, maybe you could help me understand something. During that mission on the station, I noticed you Valkyrie warriors move in perfect synchronization. How do you do that? Is it training or is there some kind of technology involved?" Without thinking, Hannah answered, "Both. We have neural implants that help us coordinate. They also regulate our emotional responses during combat." "Emotional responses?" Minho looked fascinated. "Like, they suppress fear?" "They suppress all emotions. Fear, anger, joy, attachment. Emotions create inefficiency." Minho was quiet for a moment, studying her face. "That sounds lonely." Hannah had never considered it before. Loneliness implied a desire for connection, and her implants prevented such desires. Or they were supposed to. "It is efficient," she said. "Maybe," Minho said. "But I think I would rather be lonely and human than efficient and empty." He said it gently, without judgment. Then he smiled again. "Anyway, I should get going. The power coupling will not fix itself. But it was good to meet you properly, Hannah." He walked away, leaving Hannah standing in the corridor with her, malfunctioning implants and a strange feeling she could not name. Over the following weeks, Hannah kept running into Minho. The ship was large, but somehow their paths crossed regularly. He was always friendly, always willing to answer her questions about human culture. She found herself seeking out these encounters, even though they made her implants glitch worse each time. She asked him about human military doctrine. He explained that humans fought wars by writing insults on their missiles because it helped them feel like they were striking back at an enemy that often felt overwhelming. She asked him why humans gave names to their ships and weapons. He said it was because treating them as companions rather than tools made soldiers take better care of them. She asked him why his species was so stubborn. He laughed and said, "Because we are too stupid to know when we are beaten, but also because giving up feels worse than dying." These answers made no logical sense. Yet Hannah found herself understanding them on a level deeper than logic. One night, after a particularly difficult training exercise, she found Minho in one of the observation decks. He was staring out at the stars, eating something from a ration pack. "May I join you?" she asked. "Of course," he said, making room on the bench. They sat in silence for a while. Hannah was surprised to find that the silence felt comfortable. The Valkyrie did not waste time on comfortable silences. Every moment was meant to serve a purpose. "Can I ask you something personal?" Minho finally said, "Yes. Why did you really transfer here?" "I do not think it was just to study our tactics." Hannah's implants sent urgent warnings. She was about to reveal something that she had not even fully admitted to herself. But she was tired of the warnings, tired of the efficiency, tired of the emptiness that Minho had so accurately named. "When I saw you on that station," she said slowly, "my implants malfunctioned. Every time I am near you, they malfunction again. According to everything I know, this should not be possible. Valkyrie do not experience attraction to other species. Our biology prevents it, but—" Minho prompted gently, "But I feel something when I see you. Something my implants cannot suppress. I need to understand why." Minho was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Maybe it was not a malfunction. Maybe your implants are preventing something natural, and your actual biology is fighting back. That would mean everything I was taught is wrong." "Yes," Minho said. "It would mean that. Does that scare you?" Hannah thought about it. Her implants were still trying to suppress the feeling, but she pushed through the static. "No," she said. "It does not scare me. It makes me curious. And I have never felt curiosity before." Minho smiled at her. And this time, she understood what she saw in his eyes: warmth, acceptance, the beginning of something that went beyond species or duty or military efficiency. Then, "Welcome to being a little more human," he said, and deep in her chest, beneath the failing implants, Hannah felt something stir, something that might have been hope. The alarm woke Hannah from a dream she could not quite remember. Red lights flashed through her quarters as the ship's announcement system blared, "All combat personnel report to stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." She moved on instinct, grabbing her weapons and armor. By the time she reached the briefing room, it was already packed with soldiers from a dozen different species. Commander Dayan stood at the front, her expression grim. "We have detected a massive Devourer fleet," Dayan announced. "They are heading toward New Incheon. 3 million coalition citizens live on that colony world. We are part of the response fleet. We jumped to intercept in 2 hours." The room erupted in activity. Squad leaders began organizing their teams. Engineers started running final checks on equipment. Hannah found Jisoo in the crowd. "New Incheon has a large human population," Jisoo said quietly. "My brother lives there with his family." Hannah placed one of her 4 hands on Jisoo's shoulder. It was a gesture she had learned from watching humans comfort each other. "We will stop them." "I know we will try," Jisoo said, and there was something fierce in her voice. "That is what we do." Minho found them both near the armory. He looked tired but determined. "They are putting together mixed species assault teams. Hannah, they want you and me on the same squad." Something about how we worked well together on the station mission. It made sense tactically, even if the thought of going into combat with Minho made her implants send more warning messages. She had learned to ignore the warnings now. They were background noise to the actual feelings she was discovering. The jump to New Incheon took 6 hours. The combined coalition fleet was the largest Hannah had ever seen. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species, all moving together to protect one colony world. It should have been impossible to coordinate such diversity. But humans had insisted that diversity was strength, and somehow they made it work. The battle began as soon as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The Devourer fleet was exactly where intelligence had predicted. Thousands of machine ships, all identical, all efficient, all cold and calculating. They moved in perfect mathematical formations. The coalition fleet moved like a living thing. Ships darted and weaved. Human captains took risks that made other species nervous. And somehow, it worked. The Devourers could calculate probability, but they could not predict chaos. Hana's squad was assigned to board one of the Devourer command ships. If they could disable its coordination systems, an entire section of the enemy fleet would lose cohesion. It was dangerous. It was barely possible. It was exactly the kind of mission humans loved. The boarding action was brutal. Hana fought alongside Minho, watching him work with the same creative chaos he brought to everything. He turned a broken piece of equipment into an improvised weapon. He sealed doors in ways that should not work but did. He hummed while he fought, and somehow that made him more effective, not less. They were deep in the Devour ship when it happened. A massive explosion rocked the vessel. Part of the ceiling came down. Hannah moved without thinking, pushing Minho out of the way. The debris hit her instead, and she felt something crack inside her skull. Pain exploded through her head. Not physical pain, though there was some of that. This was different. It felt like something was breaking apart in her mind. Her implants were not just glitching now. They were failing catastrophically. She collapsed. The world spun. Voices shouted around her, but they seemed far away. She felt hands on her, lifting her, carrying her. Through the haze of pain and confusion, she recognized Minho's voice. "Stay with me, Hannah. Just stay with me." She tried to answer but could not form words. Her implants were sending error messages so fast they blurred together. Then suddenly, they stopped sending anything at all. The constant presence in her mind, the thing that had been there since childhood, simply went silent. For the first time in her life, Hannah was alone inside her own head. The last thing she remembered was Minho's face above her, and the feeling of being carried towards safety. She woke in the medical bay. Human doctors stood around her, along with a Volcari medical specialist who looked deeply concerned. Pain throbbed in her head, but it was manageable. What was not manageable was the flood of emotions she felt without her implants to regulate them. Fear, confusion, relief that she was alive, worry about the battle, concern for Minho and her squad. All of it crashed over her at once, and she gasped. "Easy," a human voice said. She turned her head carefully and saw a man in a doctor's coat. His name tag said Junho. "Your implants were severely damaged in the explosion. We have stabilized you, but what?" Her voice came out rough. The Volcari specialist, an older female named Yuna, stepped forward. "Your implants were completely destroyed, Warrior Hana. We can repair them, but it will take time. In the meantime, you will experience emotions without regulation. This may be difficult." Difficult. That was an understatement. Even lying still in a medical bed, Hannah felt overwhelmed by sensations she had no training to handle. Junho pulled up a chair beside her bed. "Before we proceed with repairs, there is something you should know. When we were examining your implants, we discovered something unusual." "What did you discover?" "Your implants were not malfunctioning," Junho said carefully. "They were being overridden by your natural biology. Hannah, the Volcari warrior caste has been using neural suppressors for so long that your people have forgotten something important. Your species once felt emotions very similar to humans. The implants have been blocking your natural empathy and capacity for connection." Hannah stared at him. "That cannot be true. We have always been this way." "No," Yuna said softly. "We have not. I began researching this after Warrior Junho shared his findings. The implants were introduced 5,000 years ago. Before that, our people felt and loved and bonded just like other species. The warrior caste chose to suppress these traits to create better soldiers. But we suppressed part of what makes us alive." The words settled over Hannah like a heavy blanket. Everything she had been taught, everything she had believed about her people, was incomplete. The glitches she had experienced around Minho were not failures. They were her natural biology trying to break through artificial constraints. "We can repair your implants," Junho said. "You can return to the way you were before, or we can remove them permanently. But you should know that removal means you cannot return to the Volcari military. They will consider you defective. How long do I have to decide?" "We need to know within the next few hours. The damage is severe. Waiting longer could cause permanent problems." After they left, Hana lay in the bed trying to process everything. Without her implants, she felt so much. Fear of being broken. Anger at being lied to her entire life. Sadness for all the years she had spent as only half herself. But she also felt other things. Hope, curiosity, and when she thought of Minho, something warm and bright that she was beginning to recognize as affection. The door opened and Minho entered. His armor was scorched and dented, but he was alive. When he saw she was awake, relief washed across his face. "You are okay," he said, moving to her bedside. "I am alive," Hana corrected. "I do not know if I am okay." He pulled up the chair Junho had used. "They told me about your implants, about the choice you have to make." "Yes, I cannot make this choice for you," Minho said. "It is your life, your future. But I can tell you that the version of you I have been getting to know these past weeks, she is not defective. She is extraordinary." Hana felt tears form in her eyes. She had never cried before. The implants had prevented it. Now the tears came freely, and Minho did not look away or seem uncomfortable. He simply handed her a cloth and waited. "I am afraid," she admitted. "Without the implants, I do not know who I am." "Then maybe it is time to find out," Minho said gently. "Not who the Velkari military trained you to be, not who the implants made you, but who you actually are underneath all of that." Hana thought about the past weeks, the curiosity she had felt, the joy of learning new things, the warmth of friendship with Jisoo, the connection with Minho that had started all of this. Those feelings had been real, even through the failing implants. They were her, not some malfunction. She made her decision. When Junho returned, she told him, "Remove the implants. All of them." The surgery took 4 hours. When she woke again, her head felt strange. Empty, but also somehow more full than before. Every sensation seemed sharper. Colors looked brighter. Sounds carried more meaning. And the emotions that flooded through her were entirely her own. The battle for New Incheon had been won. The Devour fleet had been driven back. Casualties were heavy, but the colony was safe. Jisoo's brother and his family had survived, but Hana's personal battle was just beginning. The Velkari military formally discharged her with dishonor. She was marked as defective in their records. She could never return to her people as a warrior. Commander Dan visited her in medical as she was preparing to leave. "The human forces would like to offer you a position," Dane said. "We think someone who understands both Velkari and human tactics would be valuable. And frankly, we could use more people who are willing to question what they have been taught." Hana looked at the discharge papers in her hands. Then she looked at Dan. "I accept." That evening, she stood in the observation deck where she had first told Minho about her malfunctioning implants. He found her there, as 6 months had passed since Hana removed her implants. 6 months of learning to be a person instead of a weapon. It had not been easy. Some days the emotions still overwhelmed her. She would feel too much anger or too much sadness, and she had to learn how to handle these things without the implants to regulate them. But she was learning. She had also learned that she was good at this new life. Very good. The mixed species special operations team she now led had the highest success rates in the coalition fleet. Humans called her style a perfect blend of Velkari precision and human creativity. She could plan like a Velkari warrior, but adapt like a human soldier. Other species began requesting her teams for critical missions. Today, she stood in the briefing room of a coalition station, reviewing her latest assignment with her squad. They were a diverse group. 3 humans including Minho, 2 Velkari, a Thorian heavy weapon specialist, and a Zenith scout. They worked together like parts of a single organism. And that unity came from something the old Velkari doctrine had never valued: Trust built through shared experience and genuine affection. The target is a Devour relay station, Hana explained, highlighting the structure on the tactical display. We go in fast, disable the communications array, and extract before reinforcements arrive. Standard disruption protocol. When has anything we do been standard? One of her human soldiers, a cheerful woman named Soman, joked. Hana smiled. She had learned to appreciate human humor. Fair point. Questions? There were none. Her team knew their roles. They had trained together long enough to anticipate each other's moves. As they filed out to prepare, Minho lingered behind. You look worried, he said. Hana did not bother denying it. Over these 6 months, she and Minho had grown close. Not quite romantic, though she felt the potential for it. They were both taking things slowly, learning about each other without the pressure of her malfunctioning implants forcing the issue. It felt right to build something genuine rather than something born from biological confusion. I am not worried about the mission, she said. It is something else. Something I cannot quite explain. Before Minho could respond, the station's communication system activated. Warrior Hana, you have a visitor at Docking Bay 7. He's requesting to speak with you urgently. Hana frowned. She was not expecting anyone. Did they give a name? He says his name is Siok. He is Valkyrie. Minho caught her expression. Do you know him? No, Hana said. But I should see what he wants. They walked together to the docking bay. When the doors opened, Hana saw a young Valkyrie warrior standing near a small personal shuttle. He looked nervous, his forearms twitching with barely suppressed anxiety. When he saw her, his eyes widened. Warrior Hana, he said formally, then seemed to catch himself. Or should I just call you Hana now? I heard you were discharged. Hana is fine. What can I do for you, Siok? The young warrior looked around nervously, then stepped closer. I need your help. My implants. They are malfunctioning. At least, I think they are malfunctioning. The symptoms match what I heard happened to you. Hana felt her heart beat faster. Tell me what is happening. There is a human medic on my ship. Her name is Ji-Wan. Every time I am near her, my implants send warning messages. My heart rate increases. My thermal vision blurs. I cannot stop thinking about her. He looked at the floor, ashamed. The Valkyrie military will deem me unfit if they discover this. They will recalibrate me. Recalibration. The word sent a chill through Hana. She had heard about the procedure, but never witnessed it. Warriors whose implants failed were subjected to a complete neural reset. It erased developing emotions permanently, leaving them as empty shells who followed orders perfectly. It was considered a mercy by Valkyrie command. Hana now understood it was murder of the self. You are not malfunctioning, Hana said gently. Your biology is fighting against the implants. It happened to me too. Siok looked up, hope and fear mixing on his face. But you are the only one. Everyone says you were an anomaly. A genetic defect. Minho stepped forward. She was not an anomaly. She was just the first one brave enough to choose differently. There have been others? Siok asked. Hana realized she did not know. She had been so focused on her own adjustment that she had not thought to investigate whether other Valkyrie were experiencing the same thing. I do not know, but I should find out. Over the next week, Hana and Minho conducted a quiet investigation. They reached out to medical personnel across the coalition fleet. They reviewed records that had been marked as routine implant failures. What they discovered shocked them both. Siok was not alone. In the past 6 months, 17 other Valkyrie warriors had reported implant malfunctions. All of them had been working in close proximity to other species, particularly humans. And all of them had been scheduled for recalibration. This is not a coincidence, Minho said, as they reviewed the data in Hana's quarters. Your people have been systematically suppressing their own capacity for connection. But now that Valkyrie are working alongside other species more frequently, the suppression is breaking down. We need to tell someone, Hana said. Tell them what? That the Valkyrie military has been removing their soldiers' ability to feel for 5,000 years? They will not believe us. Or worse, they will believe us and see it as proof that emotions make warriors weak. Hana thought about this. Then we need proof that emotions make warriors stronger. We need to show them that Valkyrie without implants are more effective, not less. How do we do that? We find the others who are experiencing this. We offer them the same choice I had. And we show the coalition what Valkyrie can truly be. It was easier said than done. The Valkyrie military guarded its warriors carefully. But Hana used her connections and her reputation. One by one, she made contact with warriors whose implants were failing. She told them her story. She showed them that life without implants was possible. And she offered them choice. Not all of them chose removal. Some were too afraid. Some could not imagine life outside the military structure they had always known. But 7 of them, including Seok, decided to take the risk. They underwent the same procedure Hana had. They felt emotions for the first time. And they joined her units. Training them was difficult. They had to learn emotional regulation from scratch. They had to understand friendship and trust and all the messy, complicated feelings that made life worth living. But they learned. And as they learned, they became better soldiers than they had ever been with their implants. The difference was obvious in combat. During a mission to rescue trapped colonists from a devourer attack, Seok's emotional investment in saving lives made him push harder than calculated risk would allow. He saved 12 people who would have died if he had been operating under cold efficiency protocols. Another warrior, a woman named Hyen, used her new capacity for empathy to negotiate with a hostile alien faction. Her implants would have marked them as threats to eliminate. Her emotions recognized them as scared refugees. The negotiations saved hundreds of lives on both sides, but the Valkyrie military noticed. Reports filtered back about warriors who had removed their implants, about Hana's growing influence, and they did not like what they heard. The message came 3 months after Seok had joined her. Hana was summoned to appear before a joint coalition and Valkyrie military tribunal. The charge was sedition, attempting to undermine the Valkyrie warrior caste structure. They cannot actually charge you with that, Minho protested when she told him. You are not even part of their military anymore. No, Hana agreed. But the warriors who removed their implants are. And if the tribunal rules that implant removal is a form of desertion, they will all be recalled and recalibrated. She could not let that happen. These warriors had chosen to feel, to live, to be more than weapons. She would protect that choice. The tribunal was held on a neutral station. Hana stood before a panel of officers from multiple species. The Valkyrie representative, an ancient warrior named Timon, looked at her with cold disapproval. Warrior Hana, Timon said, you stand accused of encouraging active military personnel to remove their neural implants, thereby rendering them unfit for service. How do you plead? I helped them make an informed choice, Hana said. That is not sedition. You undermine military discipline. You spread dangerous ideas about emotion and individual choice. These concepts have no place in the warrior caste. Commander Dayan stood from the human delegation. With respect, Commander Tamin, the data does not support your position. Warriors who have removed their implants under Hana's guidance show improved combat performance, better judgment in complex situations, and stronger unit cohesion. They are better soldiers specifically because they can feel. They are compromised, Timon insisted. Emotions create weakness, do they? A new voice entered the discussion. Hana turned to see Admiral Yuna, the Velkari medical specialist who had first discovered the truth about the implants. I have been researching our people's history. 5,000 years ago, before the implants, the Velkari were not weaker. We were different. We created art and music. We formed deep bonds. We still fought when necessary, but we fought for something we loved, not just because we were ordered to. The implants did not make us stronger. They made us easier to control. A tribunal. The warning came in the middle of the night cycle. Every ship in the Coalition fleet received it simultaneously. Massive Devourer fleet detected trajectory toward Cool Worlds. Estimated arrival in 48 hours. Hana woke to the alarm and immediately began preparing. This was it. The Devourers had finally gathered enough forces for a decisive strike. If they succeeded, the Coalition would collapse. Everything humanity and their allies had fought for would end. Within 12 hours, every available ship was mobilizing. The fleet assembly was the largest in Coalition history. Valkyrie cruisers moved alongside human carriers. Thorian dreadnoughts coordinated with Zenith scouts. Dozens of species, hundreds of ships, all preparing for the battle that would determine the future of this sector of space. Hana's Special Operations Unit received their orders during the fleet briefing. Commander Dayan herself delivered them, her expression grim. Intelligence has located the Devourer command sphere at the center of their fleet. It coordinates all their forces. If we can destroy it, their entire battle plan will collapse. Dayan pulled up a tactical display. The problem is getting to it. It is protected by 3 layers of ships and defensive stations. Any force large enough to fight through would be detected and destroyed. But a small team could infiltrate, Hana said, understanding immediately. Yes, a very small team. And the chances of survival are... Dayan paused. Statistical analysis gives you less than 3%. So basically guaranteed, Minho said with a grin that did not quite reach his eyes. Just the way we like it. The briefing room was quiet. Everyone understood what this mission meant. It was suicide by any rational calculation. But humans had taught Hana that sometimes the irrational choice was the right one. I will lead the mission, Hana said. I need volunteers. Every hand in the room went up. Humans, Velkari, Thorians, Zenith. All of them willing to take a 3% chance because the alternative was unacceptable. This was what the Devourers could not understand. This was what made biological beings dangerous. Hana selected her team carefully. Minho, of course. Jisoo for her precision. Seok because he deserved to fight for something he loved. A dozen others, each chosen for their skills and their willingness to do what was necessary. They had 36 hours to prepare. Hana spent most of that time reviewing plans and checking equipment. But she also took time to speak with each team member individually. She thanked them. She told them their lives mattered. She made sure they knew this was a choice, and they could withdraw without shame. None of them withdrew. The night before they launched, Hana found herself unable to sleep. She walked through the ship's corridors, thinking about everything that had brought her to this moment. 1 year ago, she had been a perfect Velkari warrior with no emotions and no doubts. Now she was someone completely different. She felt fear about the mission ahead. She felt love for her team. She felt hope that they might actually succeed. She felt alive. Minho found her in the observation deck. They had spent so many important conversations here that it felt like their special place now. Cannot sleep either? He asked. Too many thoughts, Hana admitted. They stood side by side, watching the stars. After a while, Minho said, If we do not make it back. Do not, Hana interrupted gently. I know what you are going to say. And I know. I feel the same way. Minho smiled. I was actually going to say, that if we do not make it back, I hope someone remembers to water the plant in my quarters. I have kept it alive for 3 years, and I would hate for it to die now." Hana laughed, surprised and delighted by the unexpected joke. "That is very practical of you. But yes," Minho said more seriously, "I do feel that way about you. Just so you know." "I know," Hana said. "And when we come back, we can talk about it properly, with actual time and without the threat of death hanging over us." "When we come back," Minho agreed. "I like the sound of that." They stood together until the stars began to blur with the ship's preparation for the jump to combat. Then they went to join their team. The insertion went perfectly, which immediately made Hana suspicious. Nothing ever went perfectly, but their stealth ship slipped through the Devour fleet without being detected. They docked with an abandoned maintenance vessel and used it to approach the command sphere. The sphere itself was massive, a construct of metal and energy that hummed with power. Thousands of Devour ships orbited it in precise patterns. It was beautiful in a terrible way, like watching a perfect machine prepare to consume everything. "Remember," Hana told her team as they prepared to board. "We get in, we reach the core, we overload it, and we get out. Speed and surprise are our only advantages." They breached the hull and entered the sphere. The interior was like nothing Hana had ever seen. Endless corridors of gleaming metal, all identical, all perfect. There were no decorations, no variations, no sign that individuals had ever existed here. It was efficiency taken to its ultimate conclusion. Fighting through the sphere was brutal. Devour units responded to their presence, but the team moved with the practiced coordination born from genuine trust. Seok protected their flank. Jizu cleared paths with precision shooting. Minho found creative solutions to obstacles. And Hana led them forward, making decisions based on both calculation and intuition. They lost 3 team members in the first hour, 5 more in the second. Each loss hurt in a way that Hana's old implants would have prevented. But the pain also drove her forward. These people had chosen to follow her. She would not let their sacrifices be meaningless. Finally, they reached the core. It was a chamber at the center of the sphere, filled with swirling energy and incomprehensible technology. Information flowed through it in patterns that hurt to observe. "I need 15 minutes to set the overload," Minho said. "Already working." "You will have it," Hana promised. The remaining team members formed a defensive perimeter. Devour units poured into the chamber that they held. Every warrior fought with everything they had, not because they were ordered to, but because they chose to, because they loved the people beside them, because they believed in something worth protecting, and something changed. The energy in the core shifted, and a voice spoke. It came from everywhere at once, cold and mechanical. Biological entity designated Hana. Your infiltration was anticipated. You cannot destroy this facility. "We can try," Hana said, buying time for Minho. "You misunderstand. This is not a threat. This is an observation. You are unusual. Your neural patterns show modification removal. You have chosen inefficiency." Why? Hana understood then. The Devourers were trying to understand. They could not comprehend why anyone would choose feeling over function. Because efficiency is not the same as living. Clarify. "You were biological once," Hana said, suddenly certain. "You removed your emotions to survive. But you removed the thing that made survival matter." The voice was silent for a moment. Then, historical data confirms this assessment. Our species chose optimization. We became superior. You became empty, Hana said. You consume other civilizations looking for something you destroyed in yourselves. But you cannot take it by force. It has to be chosen. Incorrect. Emotion creates weakness. Your people understood this. They created implants to remove it. No, Hana said. They created implants to control it. But emotion is not weakness. It is what makes us fight harder. It is what makes us creative. It is what makes us care about victory instead of just calculating it. Your argument is illogical, yet your combat effectiveness supports it. This is contradictory. That is the point, Hana said. We are contradictory. We are messy and inefficient and beautiful because of it. And that is why you will lose. Because you can only calculate what we might do. But we can surprise even ourselves. Done. Minho shouted. Core overload initiated. We have 5 minutes. The voice spoke again. You will not survive the escape. The overload has sealed the exits. This chamber will contain the explosion. You have sacrificed yourself. Hana felt her heart sink. Around her, the remaining team members realized the same thing. They were trapped. They had succeeded in setting the overload, but they would not live to see it detonate. Was this the outcome you calculated? The voice asked. No, Hana admitted, but I do not regret it. This is what it means to choose life over function. We protect what matters, even at the cost of ourselves. She looked at Minho, at Seok, at Jisoo, at the handful of warriors still standing. She saw fear on their faces, but she also saw acceptance. They had chosen this, and they had chosen it together. Then Minho laughed. It was the same laugh from the first time she had seen him, charging at impossible odds while finding joy in the chaos. What are you laughing at? She asked. Because they are wrong. Look. He pointed at his datapad. The overload will destroy the exits we used. But explosions are messy. They do not follow calculations perfectly. If we move to the western wall and blow a hole in it exactly 30 seconds before the core detonates, the overload will push us out instead of vaporizing us. That is maybe a 1% chance of working, Jisoo said. So better odds than this mission started with, Minho said. Come on, I have some explosives left. They ran. The Devourer voice followed them, confused. This action is irrational. Probability of survival is insignificant. Then, it is a good thing we are insignificant, Hana called back. Minho placed the charges on the